Chapter 26. The canteen was the warmest room at the Grove. Piping hot radiators lined the walls, and the benches closest to them were always filled first. Lunch was the busiest meal, with staff and patients eating side by side. The raised voices of the diners created a cacophony of noise, born from an uncomfortable excitement when all the patients were in the same space. A couple of jolly Caribbean dinner ladies laughed and chatted as they served up bangers and mash, fish and chips, chicken curry, all of which smelled better than they tasted. I selected fish and chips as the lesser of three evils. On my way to sit down, I passed Elif. She was surrounded by her gang, a surly-looking crew of the toughest patients. She was complaining about the food as I walked by her table. "I'm not eating this shit." She pushed away her tray. The patient to her right pulled the tray toward her, preparing to take it off Elif's hands. But Elif whacked her across the head. "Greedy bitch," she shouted. "Give that back." This prompted a guffaw of laughter around the table. Elif pulled back her plate and tucked into her meal with renewed relish. Alicia was sitting alone, I noticed, at the back of the room. She was picking at a meager bit of fish like an anorexic bird, moving it around the plate but not bringing it to her mouth. I was half tempted to sit with her but decided against it. Perhaps if she had looked up and made eye contact, I would have walked over, but she kept her gaze lowered, as if attempting to block out her surroundings and those around her. It felt like an invasion of privacy to intrude, so I sat at the end of another table, a few spaces away from any patients, and started eating my fish and chips. I ate just a mouthful of the soggy fish, which was tasteless, reheated but still cold in the center. I concurred with Ella's appraisal. I was about to throw it in the bin when someone sat down opposite me. To my surprise, it was Christian. "All right," he said with a nod. "Yeah, you." Christian didn't reply. He hacked with determination through the rock-solid rice and curry. "I heard about your plan to get Alicia painting," he said between mouthfuls. "I see news travels fast." "It does in this place." "Your idea?" I hesitated. "It was, yes. I think it'll be good for her." Christian gave me a doubtful look. "Be careful, mate." "Thanks for the warning, but it's rather unnecessary. I'm just saying. Borderlines are seductive. That's what's going on here. I don't think you fully get that. She's not going to seduce me, Christian." He laughed. "I think she already has. You're giving her just what she wants. I'm giving her what she needs. That's a difference." "How do you know what she needs?" "You're over-identifying with her. It's obvious. She's the patient, you know, not you." I looked at my watch in an attempt to disguise my anger. "I have to go." I stood and picked up my tray. I started walking away, but Christian called after me. "She'll turn on you, Theo. Just wait. Don't say I didn't warn you." I felt annoyed, and the annoyance stayed with me for the rest of the day. After work, I left the Grove and went to the small shop at the end of the road and bought a pack of cigarettes. I put a cigarette in my mouth, lit it, and inhaled deeply, barely conscious of my actions. I was thinking about what Christian had said, going over it in my mind while the car sped past. "Borderlines are seductive," I heard him saying. Was it true? Was that why I was so annoyed? Had Alicia emotionally seduced me? Christian clearly thought so, and I had no doubt Diomedes suspected it. Were they right? Searching my conscience, I felt confident the answer was no. I wanted to help Alicia, yes, but I was also perfectly able to remain objective about her, stay vigilant, tread carefully, and keep firm boundaries. I was wrong. I was already too late, though. I wouldn't admit this, even to myself. I called Jean-Felix at the gallery. I asked what had happened to Alicia's art materials, her paints, brushes, and canvases. "Is it all in storage?" After a slight pause, he answered, "Well, no, actually, I have all her stuff." "You do?" "Yes, I cleared out her studio after the trial and got hold of everything worth keeping. All her preliminary sketches, notebooks, her easel, her oils. I'm storing it all for her." "How nice of you." "So you're following my advice, letting Alicia paint?" "Yes, whether anything will come of it remains to be seen." "Oh, something will come of it. You'll see. All I ask is you let me have a look at the finished paintings." A strange note of hunger was in his voice. I had a sudden image of Alicia's pictures swaddled like babies in blankets in that storage room. Was he really keeping them safe for her, or because he couldn't bear to let go of them? "Would you mind dropping off the materials to the Grove?" I said. "Would that be convenient?" "Oh, There was a moment's hesitation. I felt his anxiety. I found myself coming to his rescue. Or I can pick them up from you if that's easier. Yes, perhaps that would be better. Jean-Felix was scared of coming here, scared of seeing Alicia. Why? What was there between them? What was it that he didn't want to face? Chapter 27. What time are you meeting your friend? I asked. 7 o'clock after rehearsal. Kathy handed me her coffee cup. If you can't remember her name, Theo, it's Nicole. Right, I yawned. Kathy gave me a stern look. You know, it's a little insulting that you don't remember. She's one of my best friends. You went to her going away party for fuck's sake. Of course I remember Nicole. I just forgot her name, that's all. Kathy rolled her eyes. Whatever, pothead. I'm having a shower. She walked out of the kitchen. I smiled to myself. 7 o'clock. At 6:45, I walked along the river towards Kathy's rehearsal space on the south bank. I sat on a bench across the way from the rehearsal room, facing away from the entrance so Kathy wouldn't immediately see me if she left early. Every so often I turned my head and glanced over my shoulder, but the door remained obstinately shut. Then, at 7:05, it opened. There was the sound of animated conversation and laughter as the actors left the building. They wandered out in groups of 2 or 3. No sign of Kathy. I waited 5 minutes, 10 minutes. The trickle of people stopped, and no one else came out. I must have missed her. She must have left before I arrived, unless she hadn't been here at all. Had she been lying about the rehearsal? I got up and made my way toward the entrance. I needed to be sure. If she was still inside and she saw me, what then? What excuse would I have for being here? I'd come to surprise her. Yes, I'd say. I was here to take her and Nicole out for dinner. Kathy would squirm and lie her way out of it with some bullshit excuse. Nicole is sick. Nicole has canceled. So Kathy and I would end up spending an uncomfortable evening alone together, another evening of long silences. I reached the entrance. I hesitated, grabbed the rusted green handle, and pulled open the door. I went inside. The bare concrete interior smelled damp. Kathy's rehearsal space was on the 4th floor. She had moaned about having to climb the stairs every day. So I went up the main central staircase. I reached the 1st floor and was starting on for the 2nd when I heard a voice on the stairs. Coming from the floor above, it was Kathy. She was on the phone. I know, I'm sorry. I'll see you soon. I won't be long. Okay, bye. I froze. We were seconds away from colliding with each other. I dashed down the steps, hiding around the corner. Kathy walked past without seeing me. She went out the door. It slammed shut. I hurried after her and left the building. Kathy was walking away, moving fast toward the bridge. I followed, weaving between commuters and tourists, trying to keep a distance without losing sight of her. She crossed the bridge and went down the steps into the embankment tube station. I went after her, wondering which line she would take. But she didn't get on the tube. Instead, she walked straight through the station and out the other side. She continued walking through Charing Cross Road. I followed. I stood a few steps behind her at the traffic lights. We crossed Charing Cross Road and headed into Soho. I followed her along the narrow streets. She took a right turn, a left, another right. Then she abruptly stopped. She stood on the corner of Lexington Street and waited. So this was the meeting place, a good spot, central, busy, anonymous. I hesitated and slipped into a pub on the corner. I positioned myself at the bar. I offered a clear view from the window of Kathy across the road. The barman, bored, with an unruly beard, glanced at me. Yeah, a pint, Guinness. He yawned and went to the other side of the bar to pour the pint. I kept my eyes on Kathy. I was pretty sure she wouldn't be able to see me through the window, even if she looked in this direction. At one point, Kathy did look over, straight at me. My heart stopped for a second. I was sure she had noticed me, but no, her gaze drifted on. The minutes passed, still Kathy waited, so did I. I sipped my pint slowly, watching. He was taking his time, whoever he was. She wouldn't like that. Kathy didn't like to be kept waiting, even though she was perpetually late. I could see she was getting annoyed, frowning, and checking her watch. A man crossed the road toward her. In the few seconds he took across the street, I had already assessed him. He was well built. He had shoulder-length, fair hair, which surprised me, as Kathy always said she only went for men with dark hair and eyes like mine, unless that was another lie. But the man walked right by her. She didn't even look at him. Soon he was out of sight, so it wasn't him. I wondered if Kathy and I were both thinking the same thing. Had she been stood up? Then her eyes widened. She smiled. She waved across the street at someone out of sight. At last, I thought, it's him. I craned my neck to see. To my surprise, a tardy-looking blonde, about 30, wearing an impossibly short skirt and probably high heels, tottered over to Kathy. I recognized her at once. Nicole. They greeted each other with hugs and kisses. They walked off, talking and laughing, arm in arm, so Kathy hadn't been lying about meeting Nicole. I registered my emotions with shock. I ought to have been hugely relieved that Kathy had been telling the truth. I ought to have been grateful, but I wasn't. I was disappointed.